Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Speaking of special relationships, yesterday Jeremy Corbyn announced that his Labour MPs will be under a three-line whip to vote through the government's Article 50 bill when it reaches the Commons next month. Since then, though, all hell has broken loose. Overnight, two Labour whips, now they're the ones responsible for party discipline, they've said that they are likely to vote to block Article 50. But neither Thangam Debonair nor Jeff Smith would say they would resign their position, which could force Jeremy Corbyn to sack them. One person who has quit, though, is Tulip Siddiq, whose North London seat borders that of Jeremy Corbyn and of Brexit spokesman Keir Starmer. She resigned as Shadow Early Years Minister last night, saying loyalty to her constituents meant she had no choice but to go. Other frontbenchers who say they will vote against the Labour whip are Shadow Transport Minister Daniel Zeichner and Shadow Foreign Minister Catherine West, another North London MP. Now, sources have been talking to the media that between 60 and 80 Labour MPs could rebel, though so far only a handful have said publicly that they will vote against the government bill. And the highest profile potential rebel, Shadow Defence Secretary Clive Lewis, well, yesterday he withdrew his threat to vote against. He said he respected the result of the referendum and would vote with the whip for Article 50. To discuss all this, we're joined from Cardiff by former Labour leadership candidate Owen Smith. And I should mention we did ask the Labour Party for an interview with a member of Mr Corbyn's shadow cabinet, but none was available. So we go to Owen Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Andrew.
You've said that you'll vote against Article 50. The country voted to leave the European Union, so why are you doing that?
Because I can't in all conscience vote for something that I think is, in my view, going to make the constituents I represent poorer and our country poorer and more isolated in the world, and ultimately foster or nurture, compound the meaner politics we seem to have in our country and across the West.
The Shadow Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, says MPs like you are, quote, undermining democracy.
Well, I don't think democracy started on June the 23rd. That wasn't year zero for democracy. We've got a long-standing mandate as MPs to be representatives of our constituents and to use our judgment in representing them. I'm not a delegate from my constituency, but my constituency, actually, Andrew, the one piece of academic research that's been done looking at which way my constituents voted suggested they voted 55-45 to remain within the EU. So in that regard, I think I am also reflecting their view. But to be honest, my view is that this is bad for Britain, and we, the Labour Party, need to speak up for our convictions as pro-Europeans, but actually more importantly as people who are going to defend jobs and opportunities and the growth in our GDP in the UK. And if we think Brexit is bad for all those things, then I think we should vote against it.
And how many do you reckon like-minded Labour MPs are there?
I don't know, is the honest answer. I think it could be between 20 and 50. And I think people will be making their minds up over the next few days. And there will obviously be other opportunities when people will be able to express their views in respect of aspects of it, the customs union, the single market. But for my money, I think we should be seeking to get another referendum, a confirmatory referendum at the end of the process. That's the amendments, or one of the amendments that I tabled yesterday. But I'm also going to be voting against Article 50, I imagine, because I doubt very much whether my amendment will pass.
So let's be generous. Let's say you've got 50 Labour MPs that think the way you do. You've got one Conservative, you've got the Lib Dems, you've got one Green, and you've got the Scottish Nationalists, of course. So the rebellion's already failed on takeoff.
Well, I'm not anticipating...
A bit like the Trident missile.
Well, look, Andrew, I'm not anticipating...
Off in the wrong direction and then foot into the sea.
Well, I think demur slightly. I think we're going in the right direction, but you might be right in as much as the end point might be that we land in the sea. I'm not anticipating that we will be able to stop Article 50. I think there is a majority in the Commons, in the Labour Party and in the Tories to get that passed. But I think the right thing for me to do, and I think the right thing, to be honest, for Labour to do, is to stand against it. But I appreciate that I'm in a sizable minority on that point.
I understand, but the reason why the government can bank on a clear majority for Article 50 without even having to hold his breath or bite his nails is because your party has opposed a three-line whip to vote for Article 50. If it gets through Parliament without even being scratched on the way, that will be down to Labour, down to your party.
Yes.
I'll leave it there. That's the best answer I've had in weeks from that. Which is fair enough to point out. But is it not also fair to say that, I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is between a rock and a hard place on this. He imposes a three-line whip and he gets a rebellion and we all say, oh, look, he can't even do that. He doesn't oppose a three-line whip, and we will say, on this vital issue, the biggest decision Britain's had to take, you haven't even got a policy. I would suggest, Rachel, that no matter who was leader of the Labour Party at the moment, this would be a real problem.
I agree with that. I think it is a really unpalatable decision. Like, either decision would be horrible for different reasons. And of course, that speaks to Labour's problem that, you know, trying to bridge its voters who are in both Remain and Leave camps. But I do think that a lot of this would be avoided by the Labour Party having a much clearer tone on the kind of Brexit that it wants, and that hasn't come through. There aren't many things they could do about policy. They don't have much to oppose. There's no white paper. There's no plan. So, OK, that's fair enough. So, but a lot of it now relies on optics and tone, and I'm not sure, I'm not convinced that that's something that the party's getting right at the moment.
Peter, what do you make of it?
It's quite funny that Jeremy Corbyn, who's constantly derided for being a hopeless buffoon and on the edge of madness, has done something so straightforwardly sensible and is now being opposed by people whose attitude seems to me to be little short of crazy. The British public have voted to leave the European Union. If any party which now publicly stands to say we'd actually like to defy that decision is putting itself in a position of actual derision. Yeah. You simply cannot do that. However you want to oppose what's happened at the referendum, if you want to oppose it, saying we don't accept this result and we're going to carry on sulking until you give us another cake, is not going to work. Jeremy Corbyn's decision was the only conceivable right one, and these poor, desperate Blairites who've seen their whole raison d'etre seized by the Conservative Party, which is now the Blairite Party, don't know what to do. I think they should join the Conservative Party. It's where they belong. They'd be much happier there.
OK, I'm not holding my breath for that, but we shall see.
The sensible things so seldom happen, but it would be the right thing.
Very well. No, I understand that. That's your view. Owen Smith, Labour has two crucial by-elections coming up on February the 23rd, I think it is. We will be live on BBC One bringing the results to you off the back of this week. I just want to run you a clip from Jeremy Corbyn. It's to do with the Copeland constituency in the northwest of England. This is what he had to say.
Do you support the building of a new nuclear power plant at Moorside in Copeland?
There's going to be a mix of energy production in this country for a long time to come because we haven't invested in renewables at the same rate that Germany has. We support Sellafield. The issue of Moorside is clearly important. Our local candidate strongly supports Moorside.
You say your candidate supports it. My question was, do you support it?
I recognise that there has to be a mix of energy production in this country.
You're saying you don't support Moorside?
No, I didn't say that. I said the government.
So you do support it?
The government is going to have to make that decision on the basis of the issues facing the company and the area at the time, and we are some way off that.
No, that was on ITV yesterday. Owned Smith in Copeland, constituency where you have a very small majority. Nuclear power is an enormous issue there. A lot of jobs depend on it, well-paid jobs as well. There's talk of a new nuclear power station there. As you heard, the leader of the Labour Party couldn't really answer the question because his long-standing view has been that he's against such things. And in Stoke, the other area where you're defending a majority, I think, which is a bit larger, but not huge, you've picked a candidate who was enthusiastically pro-Remain in a constituency which is basically the Brexit capital of the Midlands. Does Labour know what it's doing?
Well, I'm not in charge of the Labour Party, Andrew. I'm just
No, we know
a
that. You failed
backbencher.
on that one.
I did. As we all know, I did. And therefore, I'm just a backbencher. So I think you need to ask people in the current leadership of the Labour Party that question.
Are you going to lose Copeland to the Tories and Stoke to UKIP?
No, I hope we're going to win both of those seats, and I'm going up to Copeland to campaign there in a week or so's time myself. Nuclear is a very important issue there. The Labour Party's position, my position, is that we are pro-civil nuclear. I think there is a very good case for building a new plant there. I know there's huge support for it locally, and I'm sure we'll be on the doorstep getting that message out there during the campaign.
You going to Stoke as well?
Hope so, if I got time.
Oh, surely you must make time to save this seat for your party.
You're almost certainly right. Unfortunately, the Tories have gone and put the Brexit bill right in the middle of our campaign, but there we go. I'm sure I'll make time to get there.
It also looks as if the Tories aren't going to fight Stoke very much and put their emphasis into Copeland, in the hope that if Labour does lose in Stoke, it'll be to UKIP. They'll lose, and the Tories will try and take Copeland. You've challenged Mr. Corbyn once. Even if he loses these two by-elections, which would be, I think, pretty unprecedented in modern times for in the mid-term of a government, for the main opposition party to lose two by-elections. The tradition in our country is that oppositions win by-elections. Does that threaten Mr. Corbyn in any way, or has that horse left the stable?
Well, if you mean is there going to be another challenge, I think that horse has left the stable, to borrow your phrase, Andrew. I don't see any prospect of that. Certainly no prospect of my doing that. Look, if we lost either of those seats, they are Labour seats that have been Labour seats for the best part of 80, 90, even 100 years, I think, in one case, and that would be disastrous for us, but I hope and expect that we will retain them.
All right, Owen Smith, thank you for joining us from Cardiff.
Thanks a lot.